Hello, you wonderful people. With holidays happening right now, I just want to wish you and your family happy holidays. And I know with 2025 coming right around the corner, and it probably already happened maybe when you watch this video. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the things that I want to focus on as a developer to continue to grow personally and why I'm going to be exploring some of these things. And maybe this is something that you want to take into consideration when thinking about what to learn or what direction to go into, regardless if you're a new developer or you've been doing it for quite some time. A little bit about myself. My biggest focus is developing the type of skills that either allow me to work in the industry or allow me to work for clients. If I wanted to, let's say, start my own agency or build my own projects or websites, or have the ability to create my own SaaS. And one of the biggest things for me is when you're working on your own projects or working on a team, that's a different dichotomy. When you're by yourself, you have to be very lean and you have to be able to build things quickly to get them out of the door. Biggest and the most important thing for me is if I have an idea, I want to be able to take that idea and bring it to that first user as quickly as possible. And that comes with a trade-off. To move fast, you might have to rely on other technologies in order to create your POC. Now, before I'm going to share my roadmap, I want to kind of tell you one of the experience that I had early on in my career and that kind of blew my mind. And when I was working on my second job, I was working for a financial company as a React developer. And at the time, I was just responsible implementing new features that they added to their apps. But my boss came to me and he said, listen, we really have this new idea. We want to try it out, but I don't have the ability to take off our senior developers who are Python developers to work on this new thing. And so I said, hey, let me give it a try, build a POC. And what I did at the time, I used some of the existing solutions that existed. I used React because that's something I was familiar with. And I used a headless CMS, which basically was a pre-built backend that allows you to create endpoints easily, manage your content, and allows you to leverage that CMS to build some apps. So as a junior, maybe starting to be a mid developer, I was able to create a new product, a POC by myself without really having the experience, but to build a product that gave them the vision to see, hey, like this is something we could put in front of our users. And that's exactly what happened. My boss saw the product that I made. It was janky as hell. Did it work perfectly? No, it didn't. But he was able to show it to the users right away. And the users were like, hey, there's something here. If you build this out, like this is amazing. This is exactly what we're looking for. And so to me, what I learned from that lesson is that you might have a good idea, a good product, but you can't really know if it's a good idea or good product unless you put it in the hands of users. And so to me, that kind of made me think about this idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something that you could deploy to your user to allow them to start using it and giving you feedback, because that way you know if your idea is good or if it's bad. And the funniest thing happened is that I myself, by the way, couldn't take that product to the next level, even though I built a POC, and that was quite understandable. I was more of a junior developer, but he hired more people to work on that product. And of course, I stayed at the company as well, working there until I left, working for Strappy. It was amazing because it kind of showed the power of being able to prototype quickly, get that idea to the users, and having them be able to start giving you feedback or using the service or the product. And why am I saying this to you? Because what I realized as a developer, it's not just building a little widget or the feature, but it's thinking of business solutions or building products. And that's kind of my own kind of personal reason why I like to be a developer, is because I like to take ideas that solve someone's problem and bring them to life. A lot of times I build stupid apps that only solve my problems, but it still counts. But the reason why I say that to you is because that's where I'm coming from. Maybe you're coming from a different perspective, but I wanted to show you why I choose certain technologies that I'm going to talk about in a little bit to kind of show you why this is where I want to invest more of my time. So here's the diagram that I want to share that kind of highlights some of the things that I want to focus. Now, one thing that I want to say is that AI exists. It is a thing. Is it replacing developers left and right? No. And I think Primogen, on one of his latest videos, he said the best thing that kind of shows us when we should be worried. He said, when OpenAI fires all their AI researchers, programmers, and developers, that's because they actually achieved AGI and they don't need any of those team members to be able to build anything. And that's when we should be worried. Is that the case now? No, if anything, if you really enjoy programming, you are interested by the field, I would still recommend go into it. A lot of people complain that there's no jobs. There are jobs. They might not be the jobs that you want. Like everybody wants to make $1 billion right from the start. What I would say, if you like it and enjoy it, the jobs will come. You will get into the industry. It might not be for a FANG company. It could be for a smaller company, but there's definitely places that hire. And so one of the things, you just have to set your expectations of where you're going to start working when you're starting out. And there's also a lot of adjacent careers which allow you to be a developer, but not be developing on day-to-day basis. Like for instance, I started as a software engineer. Now I work at developer relations, which is an amazing field. If people are wondering, does it still exist? It is a very important role. And I definitely suggest some people check it out if you want to dive deeper into it. There's also solution engineer roles. There's DevOps. The field is so wide that if you are technically literate, you could find other adjacent jobs and opportunities. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I had a friend who just got laid off. He already got hired. He's back working. Is there a difficulty in landing your first job? Yes, there is. Is there a difficulty in finding your next job and so on? Of course, nothing in life is easy, but at the same time, like, don't let the difficulty deter you from doing the thing that you like. So if you enjoy coding and this is something that you want to do, definitely go do it. But enough about that. So for me, thinking about 2025 and my interactions that I had with a lot of different organizations at my job and kind of seeing where they're heading, I'm seeing that the trends are, let's leverage AI to do more stuff quicker. And so if you're not leveraging AI to either make your life easier, if you're not leveraging AI to make your customers' life easier, then you are going to be outcompeted by people that are using AI. And that is just a fact. Is it going to replace your job? No, but it is going to help you do your job better and allow you to solve interesting problems for clients better. And this is why in this diagram that I drew, like the key things that I want to focus on based on the thing that I talked about earlier today, really taking an idea and bringing it to market as quickly as possible. I want, of course, to continue to improve my programming and development skills, but that's not enough, in my opinion, because when interacting with other programmers and customers, a lot of them really care about how do you deploy the application? How do you scale it to many users? Start with simple things. And this is something that I'm not as familiar as I should be. And so this is why I have deployment, or this idea of delivering the service that users could actually use, is important to me. And then also focusing on AI. And there is hype for sure. And there's definitely overhype for sure, but there's definitely use cases where using AI to improve your workflows, or to improve your clients' workflows, or to create a business solution that helps somebody else to improve their workflow, meaning they get back some of their time to do other tasks because AI has helped them to automate certain things that they didn't want to do because they were boring or monotonous or what have you. So AI is very important. So this is why for 2025, I'm going to focus on continuing to improve things in this area. And to kind of put things in perspective, if you take a look at programming, I know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, React, and Node. That's my bread and butter. This is what I started with as a developer, and this is what I still recommend for anybody to start with if you're learning to get into the industry, because with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and Node, you could pretty much build anything. Now, the new thing that I'm doing for this year, and I already started doing, is learning Python. A lot of people will tell me learn Go or learn something cooler like Rust, but to me, in the things that I do, like, I don't see the use case for that particular language, where Python is a general enough language where it works for web dev, but more importantly, where it shines is the fact that anything that you do with LLMs, Python is going to be your go-to. So if you know Python, you're already setting yourself up for the future to be able to interact with other applications that use LLMs or some sort of workflow with Python. And just to give you a quick example, not to go too far, I'll talk more about it as well. This is what I'm saying in terms of, by the way, of creating tools that help to companies to do things faster. There's a company that I work with called AirOps. I really love them, that I have my own paid subscription that I use for my personal stuff, but they created a service which basically helps marketers to improve content automation and SEO and all the stuff that usually takes a lot of time to do it much quicker. And so one thing that I want to show you here, I have my workflow, and you don't have to check out AirUps, by the way, but I have this workflow called video to post. If I edit the workflow, yes, I'm using a visual builder to build stuff, but here, check this out here. If you take a look here, here's some like basic Python code. And this is a basic example where I'm just extracting a YouTube URL, but throughout like this workflow, I am using Python more and more. For instance, here I have more code. So there's many services like Langchain. They do have a JavaScript version, but also they have Python. You have things like Hugging Face, where a lot of the stuff where you interact with AI is Python. I'll come back to talk a little bit more about this, but the general point is that Python, if it comes to AI, is everywhere. And so for me, if I want to kind of have this intersection between programming, deployment, and AI, like I need to have Python be one of my main cornerstones. And so for 2025, I'm focusing on learning Python. I'll make more videos on the resources that I'm using to talk about. So for me, my next thing is continue to do everything else. Every app that I built in the past, somehow I'm using AI. And if you're a complete dummy, using OpenAI API is a great place to start. And as you get better and better, working on with local LLMs that you get from Hugging Face and stuff like that, you could slowly progress, but don't just have an excuse that like, I don't know enough to get started, because just start by building. And so for programming, Python is my number one change that I'm going to make for this year to focus on. Then I want to start focusing on AI, and I kind of alluded to some of the tools. So the first step to learning and thinking how can you use AI is, number one is I think about things that could help me do things faster, or automation. I think if I could create something using AI that automates a workflow, for instance, I get a lot of emails and I want to create a tool which basically says which email should I respond to first, because out of 1,000 emails, I don't want to look at all 1,000. If I have a helper that just says, hey, respond to these type 5 emails first because they seem very important, that really makes sense to me. So my first kind of focus is to using AI just to improve my time. And I already started doing that with tools like Cursor and Vercel's Auth0, because I build a lot of applications with React and I use Chatzian UI components and Next.js. So this is a very helpful tool for me. And it does save me a lot of time, especially when I'm prototyping. So for me, the tools that I like to use is Cursor and V0. Those are my favorites. I know some people like Bolt. I don't get Bolt. Devin, I don't really care for at the moment. But here are the tools that I would start with if you haven't already. You're probably already using them. But the next thing, when it comes to automation, they have a great open source platform called N8N. You could run it locally on your computer. You could use their cloud paid service, or you could just deploy it yourself on your own VPS or what have you. And this allows you to build custom workflows that you can use to either solve your problems or create LLM-powered workflows that help you solve clients' problems. And this is another great, easy way to get started exploring automation with AI. Why this is important, I'm going to tell you right now. When you talk to a lot of programmers, they're like, but they'll tell whatever. But I talk to a lot of marketing people and people that interact with businesses. And this is how I learned about this service. AirOps is because I'm working with a company that has a core service they provide for other clients using AirOps platform, which is a platform that allows you to create automation that I showed earlier to automate SEO for companies. And this is like, for instance, like I was talking to them, I was like, what am I doing on my job? I should just do what they do and start my own agency where I use AI and automation to help companies scale their SEO efforts. I'm not going to do that, but I just blown away the fact that it's a thing in the market that exists. And as a developer, you could learn these tools, or you could create your own tools that help to solve business issues for clients in the marketing or sales or any domain business, something for like yoga studios, whatever it is. You could use your imagination, but with your ability of learning a little bit about AI and being very technical, you could build really cool, interesting things, not only either for yourself or your company, or if you wanted to do freelancing. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is because I see in the wild people creating these solutions, and these are not overhyped solutions, like it's going to take away your job. No, this is just automating certain processes of your business to make your life just a little bit easier. And so for me, using AI tools in the most bare minimum way, like Cursor AI, V0, and learning about automations, and N8N is the best place to start. start playing with it, check it out. And then if you're, again, starting out, OpenAI, and this should be API. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. There you go, OpenAI API. I can't spell sometimes. But just when you're building something small or just for testing, OpenAI is not that expensive. Like when it comes to it, like, so you could build very cool tools that test things out using OpenAI. And then in the future, when you want to build a more production thing, you could either take the cost into consideration when deploying the application and charging people accordingly, or you could figure out open source solutions by finding models on Hugging Face that you kind of create your own services yourself. You could learn more about that when you're just starting out, start with OpenAI. And so for me, when I build apps, I start with the API because it just allows me to build things quickly. I get to see how it works. I could deliver that as a POC. It's perfect. When working with OpenAI, you hear about agents, you hear about different chatbots, and also OpenAI might not be the only platform. There's like Google's AI, there's whatever AIs, there's Meta, and then there's like 1,000 things on Hugging Face. So finding a tool that allows you to stitch a couple of different LLMs together or to do something useful, this is one of the reasons why I want to spend a lot of time with Langchain, because it allows you to kind of create applications which don't care what AI model you use, because you could interchange and swap them easily, but you create the workflow that allows you to do all those things. And Langchain is a framework that allows you to do that. So if you haven't explored it, like, you could go on their website, check it out. And like I mentioned before, they have it for JavaScript. I'm going to tell you this: if you're a React developer and you just know JavaScript, you didn't do much Python, don't really care, just start with JavaScript. You could do so much stuff with Langchain and JavaScript. They have very good documentation. You learn about how to build RAG systems, build agents, build all these cool, useful things that allow you to create cool applications that you might not need to right off jump into Python. But if you want to start getting deeper into LLMs and you're using websites like Hugging Face, I think making Python your next step makes logical sense. So Langchain is a really big part of my learning to do for 2025. And I've already been using it in a lot of my projects, and I'm going to continue to do that as well. And then when it comes down to like you as a developer who's not a computer scientist, you might have heard of things like of AI fine tuning, where you take a model and you fine tune it, which could be a complicated project because I haven't done it. So I have no idea. I'm pretty sure, like, some people say it's easy and some people say it's complex. And the good news is you don't need to fine tune models. You could just use an existing model and create a RAG system, which basically allows you to have a knowledge base in a vector database that a LLM could use as source of reference. So it will know things about your company or your business. And it is a great way to do it, because one of the things that fine tuning doesn't allow you to do is once you fine tune a model, it's static, right? Like, for instance, that's why ChatGPT has like a cutoff age, let's say like 2024, March something, that it's like, okay, if you ask something like after that date, it just won't have that data because it's static. And when you fine tune, when you add or update the information, it's also going to be static. But if you have new data that you want to add on a consistent basis, sometimes just working with a RAG. By the way, RAG stands for retrieval augmentation generation, which basically allows you to create a system where your AI chat model has access to your data. And to me, this makes more realistic sense. I already started doing this. I have a plugin that I made that allows me to take all my content that I create and create vector embeddings where I'm able to pass that data to a chat system, and I could ask questions about all my content and do with it whatever I want my app to do, like create a summary or help me write a new blog post based on these references and resources. But anyway, this is another place that I want to start to focus. I put generative AI in asterisks, not quite probably going to make it in this year, but the idea is to better understand how generative AI works under the hood a little bit. Like, I'm not saying I want to switch to being a data scientist. I don't, but I do want to know enough about AI, something that I want to be able to speak confidently and know the things that I do know, and then know the things that I don't know. Sometimes that's the biggest weakness. It's like, the things that I don't know, I don't know. And so for 2025, really continue to learn AI tools, focus on automating stuff to free up your time or your customers' time to allow them to spend time on more important tasks. Start with basic OpenAI API. You could go really far, and it's a great way to build things quickly without concerning yourself too much. Definitely check out Langchain. and focus on RAGs to allow you to build and integrate AI into your applications, your client applications. But I think most of the time, automation in itself, if you learn how to create cool automations for clients, that could be its own thing, which is pretty awesome. And then the last thing, well, not the last thing, but the third thing that I want to talk about is deployment. So one of the things that I always talk to clients and people that build applications, part of the process is actually deploying the applications. And if you have a huge team, you might have specific people on your team that are responsible for that. But for me, like I said, I want to be able to build products for myself or for my clients. I do want to learn a little bit more about deployment. Right now, I usually just take the easy path, focus on Vercel. I do a lot of stuff with Strapi. I have the CMS. They have Strapi Cloud. Boom, solved. I don't have to worry about it. But I still think moving forward, the value that you will have, even if you don't do it yourself, but understand the process, you will build better applications because you understand the key considerations that happened in deployment. And so the first thing that I want to start talking about, and I'm kind of curious why this is cut off, and because I just need to expand it, but I don't use Docker. If you started using Docker, I think learning about Docker and containerizing applications, again, for me, I don't want to be an expert, but I want to be able to understand enough because I do talk to a lot of people on a day-to-day basis which use our product, Strapi, where they do it via Docker. And that's not the approach that I take, but that's what they do. And I have to have enough general knowledge about Docker, especially with Strapi, to be able to help them with their questions. Also, that takes us to the next step. When you deploy your applications, instead of using a service, you could create your own VPS. And this is another thing that I want to start to focus, is where I create my own VPSs to be able to deploy my applications instead of just relying on these easy tools like Vercel or Strapi Cloud. There's nothing wrong with them, and there's still the solution I will go 90% of the time for the use case, but be able to understand the basics. And VPS and deploying your own either through DigitalOcean or other services, that's a great next step to start. And this is something that I want to focus. And finally, I want to get my first AWS cert because, again, there's Google version of it, whatever. Some people go get Google's thing, but AWS I think is more important. And I start slowly collecting the AWS certs, not only because it'll give more value for me, for the company that I work for, but also from the standpoint of being to better understand solutions that exist out there to be able to scale or deploy applications that you're building for your clients. And so for me, I'm starting with AWS first cert. I think it's like Cloud Solutions or something like that, which is basically the first cert. It just talks about their top 20, I think, main services that they have, and to teach you how to basically understand what they are. And the list keeps going on, but that's my goal for 2025, is to dive into Docker, VPS, and at least get my first AWS certifications. I'm not saying that this is you should do, but I just want to show you from the things that I build and having that big picture view of the things that I'm doing. This is kind of what I want to do. And finally, what I found is, like, a lot of people like, why do you have this YouTube channel? And it's not for me to be a YouTuber, but it's for me to practice talking about the things that I'm learning and to practice about explaining the things that I'm learning. And what I found out, that the hidden caveat of the fact of doing teaching online, even when nobody watches it, is twofold. Number one is I practice talking about the information that I'm learning. And when you try to do that, you clearly find out, either by someone pointing out to you that you don't know what you're talking about, or you being like, I don't think I'm explaining this right, to find holes in your knowledge and things that you want to improve. So it's like a great feedback cycle that allows me to kind of continue to improving myself. So learn and share. Even if you're wrong, who cares? Because the point is not for me to have you be like, oh, he's wrong, like whatever, like, and who cares? Like, no, the point for me is like, I'm practicing the process of retrieval in the learning steps. For instance, you learn something, and the most important thing that you have to be able to do is be able to retrieve what you learn and to use it and apply. And so through doing these videos on YouTube allows me to kind of to practice that retrieval process and kind of practice talking about the things that I'm learning. And then based on your feedback, being like, this guy sucks, screw him, I don't want to watch this channel, unsubscribe. Hey, that's all feedback. It allows me to continue to improve. Another thing that the second benefit of YouTube, the craziest thing is, like, I'm still nobody. I'm like some random dude on the internet, but I've had so many opportunities that I have found because I have a YouTube channel, which sounds so stupid and ridiculous, but it does help when you have this social presence. And for me, it happens to be the YouTube channel. Some people love to be on Twitter. Some people really like LinkedIn. But for me, this is the platform, and it does have those additional benefits. So even though I'm not making any money on my YouTube channel, literally costs me my time, my effort, and is the hardest grift on the internet. There's definitely easier ways to make money, but it is a great way for me to reinforce what I'm learning and what I'm doing. And so to close off, and if you made it this far in this crazy rant, is that the things that I'm focusing for 2025, learning Python, more importantly, in AI space, getting better with the common AI tools that I use, and really start leveraging AI for automation for myself, the things to do at my company, and also things that I could help other clients to be able to automate little slivers of things in their business that when they don't have to do it, that means they have part of that time back and they could do higher level tasks, which your ability to buy someone back their time through automation and AI tooling, that is already amazing. And if you're starting out, play with OpenAI, try different models, but be familiar with how those APIs work. If you're taking that next level, go learn Langchain, because it's an abstraction of that makes it easier creating cool workflows without having to know everything. Eventually, you do want to look under the hood and see how things work, and then learn about RAG systems and how you could build them, because there's a lot of great use cases where you'll be able to add a lot of value to your clients. And for deployment, I'm going to focus on basics of Docker, building VPSs, and trying to get my first AWS. If you found this video helpful or not, who cares? I do, but I know that my channel might not be for everybody, but I still want to thank you for making it this far in the video. I really appreciate you and your time. And if you have any comments or suggestions, or want me cover a topic or give you my take on a thing, definitely let me know in the comments. But with that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.